Vanessa Paradis entered public life without spectacle, and that quiet arrival would come to define her entire career. From her earliest success, she appeared unlike anyone else in French culture, reserved, distant, yet deeply present. Fame came quickly, but she never seemed to chase it. Instead, she stood within it calmly, as though observing rather than performing. Audiences were drawn not to what she revealed, but to what she protected. Her silence became a language of its own, interpreted as elegance, mystery, or restraint, depending on who was watching. Over time, this composure was mistaken for emotional invulnerability, as if quiet meant untouched. In reality, it was a choice shaped by self-preservation. Vanessa learned early that not every truth needs to be spoken to be lived. Her dignity, carefully guarded, became her signature. That same silence would later shape how she loved, endured, and ultimately healed. An artist who refused to be defined. Vanessa Paradis never fit neatly into the categories imposed by celebrity culture. She was not loud enough to be provocative, not polished enough to be conventional, and not distant enough to be unreachable. Her beauty was never manufactured, her voice never forced, her acting never exaggerated. This refusal to conform made her fascinating and difficult to label. Directors admired her subtlety, audiences trusted her authenticity, and the media struggled to place her within a narrative they could control. She spoke rarely, smiled selectively, and never explained herself. Over the years, her presence matured into something firmer, less delicate, shaped by time and restraint. Beneath the calm exterior, however, existed a quiet solitude, a space she carried with her long before love entered the picture. It was not sadness, but an inwardness born of observation. Vanessa learned to exist without demanding attention, a skill that would later shape her most intimate choices. A meeting without noise or expectation. When Johnny Depp entered Vanessa Paradis's life, it happened without spectacle or design. There was no dramatic introduction, no sense of destiny announced in advance. They met as two individuals crossing paths at a moment when neither was searching. The encounter was brief, ordinary, and understated, yet unmistakably resonant. What drew them together was not glamour, but recognition. Each sensed in the other a familiar depth, a quiet fatigue shaped by public life and private introspection. Their connection grew naturally, without urgency or performance. Conversations were sparse but meaningful, silences comfortable rather than strained. It was not romance defined by intensity, but by ease. In each other's presence, they experienced something rare, relief. Vanessa did not feel observed, and Johnny did not feel lost. Neither attempted to change the other. What formed between them was not a promise, but a pause, an interval of calm both would later remember as profoundly real. Building a life away from the spotlight together, Vanessa Paradis and Johnny Depp chose distance over display. While the world watched with curiosity, they retreated from excess, building a family life centered on privacy and routine rather than spectacle. France became a refuge where fame softened and normality felt possible. Their home life was intentionally simple, grounded in shared rhythms rather than public appearances. Children arrived, anchoring them further into a quieter reality. During this time, Johnny seemed steadier, more present, while Vanessa felt understood in her need for stillness. They did not present perfection, they sought balance. Their bond thrived not on declarations, but on coexistence. To outsiders, their discretion appeared ideal. In truth, it was deliberate, a mutual agreement to protect something fragile. Vanessa believed deeply in the power of patience and gentleness. She trusted that love expressed quietly could endure. For a time, that belief felt justified, sustained by shared intention and mutual respect. When distance began to appear, Change rarely announces itself loudly, and in their relationship it arrived gradually. Absences grew longer, silences heavier, and routines less synchronized. There was no single moment of rupture, only subtle shifts that altered the atmosphere between them. Vanessa noticed the distance not through words, but through absence of presence, a gaze that wandered, conversations that shortened, a shared space that felt less inhabited. Johnny was not unkind or cruel. He was increasingly elsewhere, absorbed by internal struggles that words could not reach. Vanessa responded as she always had, with patience and discretion. She believed space was temporary, that calm could be restored through understanding. Yet holding that belief required her to remain still while things changed around her. Over time, she began to feel less seen, not rejected, but overlooked. It was an erosion rather than a break, a slow realization that love alone cannot always bridge inner distance. The weight of staying quiet. Vanessa Paradis never fought for attention, even when she felt herself fading from view. Her instinct was always to preserve peace rather than demand explanation. She believed that restraint was an act of love, that protecting someone meant absorbing discomfort silently. Over time, this habit transformed into self-effacement. She became the stable presence, the constant, the one who remained unchanged while everything else shifted. Yet stability can become invisibility when it is taken for granted. Vanessa did not lose herself suddenly. She diminished gradually, placing her needs aside to maintain equilibrium. She did not frame her experience as sacrifice. Only later would she recognize it as such. The realization arrived quietly, without drama or anger. She understood that endurance has limits, and silence, while protective, can also erase. Loving deeply had taught her empathy, but it had also taught her how easily one can disappear without ever leaving a room, choosing herself without conflict. The end of their relationship did not arrive through confrontation. There was no argument, no decisive moment charged with emotion. Instead, it came as clarity, gentle, irreversible. Vanessa recognized that staying would require her to keep shrinking, and leaving was the only way to remain whole. The choice was not a rejection of love, but an affirmation of self. She did not blame, accuse, or dramatize. She simply stepped away, quietly, with the same discretion that had guided her entire life. There was sadness, but no bitterness. She understood that not all endings require explanations to be true. Walking away was not defeat. It was survival. In choosing herself, Vanessa reclaimed a presence she had slowly relinquished. The separation marked the close of a chapter defined by devotion and endurance, and the beginning of one shaped by awareness. Sometimes strength is not holding on, but knowing when to let go without resentment. Speaking after years of reflection. 2 decades later, Vanessa Paradis spoke, not to reopen the past, but to acknowledge it. Her words were measured, calm, and free of accusation. She did not recount events or assign responsibility. Instead, she spoke of feeling alone within togetherness, of existing beside someone who was gradually elsewhere. The simplicity of her honesty resonated deeply. She explained that her silence had been protective, but also costly. What she regretted was not loving, but forgetting herself in the process. Her reflections were not revelations, but recognitions, truths clarified by time rather than emotion. Listeners were struck not by drama, but by restraint. Vanessa did not seek sympathy or vindication. She spoke to breathe, to release what had long been held inward. In doing so, she articulated an experience many understood but rarely named: the quiet exhaustion of loving without being fully seen. A life reclaimed through presence. Today, Vanessa Paradis lives with deliberate lightness. She chooses projects carefully, surrounds herself with calm, and honors her own rhythm without apology. Her days are simple, grounded in creativity rather than expectation. She no longer measures worth through endurance or silence. Instead, she values presence, her own, above all. The past remains part of her story, but it no longer defines her. Speaking did not reopen wounds, it closed them gently. Vanessa understands now that freedom does not come from forgetting, but from integration. She does not frame her journey as loss, but as learning. Having found her voice again, she uses it sparingly, intentionally. It is not loud, nor meant to convince. It simply exists, steady and clear. In reclaiming herself, Vanessa Paradis offers a quiet truth. Healing does not require noise, only honesty, patience, and the courage to finally step back into one's own life.